Hi and welcome back to this channel. My name is Kristina and I am an artist and architectural student. In this video I'm going to show you the process of painting one of these watercolor visualizations for one of my architectural projects in school. This video is kind of a mix of a tutorial and reflections. I will walk you through my watercolor process and why I use this medium for architecture. I will also share a few pros and cons and tips along the way. So yeah, let's get to it. The assignment was to design a cold bathhouse, a quiet, contemplative space for cold swimming, relaxing in the sauna and reconnecting with nature. My design focuses on creating a space that allows and supports both mental and physical preparation for the cold bath. By contrasting a cold exterior with a warm and welcoming interior, the architecture helps the body and the mind to gradually adjust to the cold environment, avoiding the shock of rapidly immersing in ice-cold water. This makes the experience more intentional and reflective. To create that mild transition, I was heavily inspired by the unique design language of ice, which formed the core of the concept development. I wanted the architecture of the cold bathhouse to feel like the extension of the frozen winter landscape, something that blends in naturally with the snow and ice. I have made 3 watercolor paintings to visualize and communicate the atmosphere of this project, and in this video I will show you the process of creating one of them. As an artist, I have never really liked watercolors. While I love drawing with colored pencils and oil paints, watercolors always scared me with its lack of control and unpredictable results. But specifically for architectural work, I find this art medium most suitable for portraying how I want the building to look like. Watercolor is good at conveying mood and atmosphere. Its soft edges, transparency, and ability to blend naturally gives architectural drawings a sense of place and emotion, something other artistic mediums like pencils or oil paints often struggle to achieve. And unlike digital renderings, watercolor leaves room for interpretation. It allows viewers, as well as me myself, to imagine how the space might feel, rather than dictating every single detail. It is also so much faster, to be honest. And yes, watercolor can be tricky at the beginning, but once you practice and get more comfortable, it will be your best friend because it is fast and low tech. No rendering software needed, no crashing programs, no frustration. Just let the colors flow naturally and create an image itself. And of course, watercolor isn't perfect. It's not always that easy, and as I mentioned before, it takes some practice and getting used to. You have less control over how watercolor behave, and it may feel frustrating, but you have to learn this material and understand how it works. You have to learn how to be more free with your brush strokes. Just go slightly over the paper with your brush and let the pigment do its job. And I know, it sounds so cliche, and I wish I could explain it better, but it's kind of hard. It is something you learn yourself with practice. You get to know the material better, you get to feel it and the way it works. But essentially what I want to say is, try to be more free. Don't be too strict and dictating, wanting to have control over every single detail, like I was before and still am sometimes. Once you work with watercolor and not against it, your work will improve drastically. Watercolor's unpredictability is the core reason why watercolor renderings look so flow and alive. Another reason why many people are afraid to use watercolors is because it is hard to correct mistakes. And it's true, if the paper buckles or you use wrong color or in the wrong spot, you kind of have to go with it. But to be honest, I think that the imperfections are part of the charm. Alright, so now let's get into the process itself. I don't have any specific way of how I paint my architectural visualizations. I guess it kind of depends on the context, but let me try to explain to you how the process of creating this exact elevation looked like. I like to start with a super light pencil sketch. I like to do it pretty detailed, but you don't have to if you don't want to. I don't think it's that important. It is just my own preference. As long as you have the right placement and proportions, you're good to go. Then I lay down flat big washes, as I call it. I start with the biggest part of the image, like the sky or in this case water. It helps to set the tone for the painting and build further based on it. Then come the midtones, which is basically everything else, like the buildings or the trees or like any other surface that is not entirely flat. And even here I try to keep it simple and readable, not hyper realistic. Be bold and use bigger brushes. The less brushstrokes, the better. It creates a more clean and united picture. But that also means that you have to be more intentional with each stroke you make. In my experience, when working with watercolors, you have to think a lot before you do anything. It is a very subtle material, so do not rush. I myself still struggle with this one. But hey, practice makes it perfect, right? When you're done with filling the larger spaces with flat washes, it is when you have to start building depth. Layering works best with watercolors when you build an image gradually by adding more and more layers on top of each other to create shadows and details. Here you can use smaller brushes if you want to, but larger ones work as well. The final thing I do, which also happens to be my favorite part, is I use a fine line pen on top of the watercolor to emphasize and clarify form and structure, which also helps to reinforce edges, perspective and details after the loose expressiveness of watercolors. It can also help balance looseness and precision where watercolor gives the painting atmosphere and materiality, while the pen defines geometry and gives the structure more information. You can also use different pen thicknesses to guide the viewer's eye and bring depth to the image. By adding outline to the foreground elements, you make them pop out more, which draws more attention. On the other hand, you can make the background areas seem softer and fade away by using a smaller tip. Additionally, you can also add highlights with a white gel pen or even a little gouache dissolved with water, but in this case I didn't feel like I needed it, so I skipped this step. So the whole process could be briefly described in 3 steps. You start with big flat washes, then you start adding layers of midtones, aka shadows, and you finish off with details as well as contour with fine line pen. Watercolor is such a great way to explore mood and materiality without getting bogged down in perfection. I hope this video was helpful and inspired you to try and use watercolors for your next architecture project. And if you already do use this art medium and have any tips or tricks, feel free to share in the comment with others as well. Thank you for being here and see you next time!